Hello! It is February haul time, and once again I'm compiling these books and thinking there are a lot more than I anticipated. So some of them are from subscription boxes, some of them are books that I have either already read or am currently reading, and some of them are pre-orders. So I'm going to start with the subscription box books, and I'm not going to talk about them in any great detail because I've already read you the synopsis in those unboxings, which I will link at the appropriate moments. So the first ones are the two books from the Tales by Mail box. So they are The Queen's Fool by Ali Sherrick and Darwin's Dragons by Lindsay Galvin, and this is a middle grade subscription box, so these are both middle grade stories and they're both historical fiction. This one with a little bit of fantasy. I don't think this one has fantasy in it, but it might. And I have actually cancelled my Tales by Mail subscription now because I'm really specific about the types of middle grades that I like to read, and they don't always hit perfectly for me with their picks. And I've looked at the picks for the next month's box. It's every other month, so the April box, and I wasn't really overly keen on them, so I have cancelled my Tales by Mail subscription. And then we have my Fairyloot book. So this is Lore by Alexandra Bracken, which is young adult fantasy. This was my January Illumicrate Fairyloot box book, and this is my January Illumicrate box book, which is Winter's Orbit by Everina Maxwell. This one is a sci-fi space opera type story. I don't know actually if this one is young adult or adult. I think it's probably adult, but I'm not 100% sure on that. So those are all of the subscription box books, and now I'm going to talk about the book that I'm currently reading, which is The Kingdom of Copper by S.A. Chakraborty, which is book 2 in the Daevabad trilogy, so I can't tell you what this one is about, but the first one follows Nahi, who is a conwoman living in Cairo in Egypt, and then she summons a warrior djinn and gets whisked off to the city of Daevabad, where she gets pulled into a whole lot of politics that she wasn't necessarily expecting. And as I said, this is book 2 in the trilogy. This trilogy we're actually reading for the Thoughtful Book Club right now. So the month of February we're reading this one, the second book, and then in March we'll be reading the final book, which is Empire of Gold. Although I won't be buying a physical copy of that one just yet because it's only out in hardback so far, because it was just released at the end of last year, and of course my first 2 books in the series are paperback, so I'll just wait for Empire of Gold to come out in paperback before I add that one to my collection, but I'll just read the audiobook, which is how I've been reading them anyway, so strictly speaking I didn't need to buy this, but oh well. And I am actually further in than where the bookmark is because, again, audiobook. Then one of my pre-orders that I have already read is Game Changer by Neil Shusterman. This one is contemporary sci-fi, so it follows a character who plays American football, and he's defence. I mean, if anybody knows anything about sport, he plays defence on the American football team, and so he's responsible for doing the tackling, and all of a sudden when he's tackling people really harshly, he gets bounced into alternative universes where things are just slightly different, but those slight differences are having a massive impact on society, and he's trying to get back to his normal world, but it's causing him to grow as a person and notice some of the social injustices that as a white, cis, hetero male he wasn't seeing previously. This book was excellent. This isn't supposed to be a review, but it was excellent. And the reason I mentioned that is because as I was reading it, I was like, I love Neil Shusterman's books. Why don't I read more of Neil Shusterman's books? I've read the Arc of the Scythe trilogy, loved it. I've read Dry, loved it. I read this, loved it. Why don't I read more by him? Well, I'm going to, because I ended up before I'd even finished reading this, ordering these two, just out of the blue, just felt like it. So the first is Unwind, which is a dystopian story that follows these three, I think, yeah, three teenagers who live in a world where undesirable teenagers are unwound and their body parts reused. And the tagline on the front is, "Before the Hunger Games there was Unwind," which is quite the claim, and I'm very excited. And then the other one is Challenger Deep. So this one I think was one of his first books. I don't know if it was his debut, but definitely one of his first books. And then Challenger Deep is his release from last year, so from 2020. And this one takes place on the sea at Challenger Deep, otherwise known as Mariana's Trench, and apparently it's got really, really strong mental health themes, which I love reading about, so I had to pick those two up. To be honest, I'm quite surprised that I managed to restrain myself and only buy two, because I was quite tempted to just buy his entire backlist, but I didn't, so I'm kind of proud of myself for that. Next up, we have a self-published book, which is actually written by someone that I work with. So this is The Defiant Spark by Annie Persick, and as I mentioned, she's someone that I work with. She works at the same university as me, and this is a self-published debut novel. I will read you the synopsis for this one. So, in a contemporary world without electricity, mana powers everything, and the artisans control all access to mana. Abelard works in a call centre, providing technical support for people who are having problems with their magical artefacts. He dreams of being an artisan, until an accident with a malfunctioning artefact makes that dream a reality. But the world of the artisans is full of secrets, and Abelard uncovers a centuries-old conspiracy at the very heart of society. Along the way, he befriends a brainifact, a sentient artifact that serves the artisans, and accidentally sparks a brainifact uprising by giving them names. He also has to contend with Alessandra, the beautiful but arrogant artisan assigned to help him control his powers, his best friend Matteo, who is jealous of his new status, and a new relationship with Jen, who was with him when the accident happened. All the while, a shadowy cabal at the centre of the artisan's hierarchy is watching his every move, ready to strike if he steps outside his allocated place in society. Ultimately, Abelard will have to choose between living the life he has always wanted and giving up everything to bring the artisans down. So if that sounds interesting to you, then consider supporting a debut author and their self-published book. I will link it in the description for you. And we're down to the last two. So this one should have been a pre-order, but honestly I forgot about it, so I didn't pre-order it. So I actually bought it after it had been released, but I'm calling it a pre-order and including it in the pre-order section. This is The Crooked Mask by Rachel Burge, which is the sequel to The Twisted Tree, which I read a couple of years ago now actually. This has just come out, as I said, and I won't tell you what this one is about, but I will show you this cover, which is beautiful. And The Twisted Tree follows Martha, who can touch people's clothing and learn things about them, and she doesn't really understand why this is happening to her. It's kind of weird, so she goes to visit her grandma and discovers that her grandma has passed away, and there is a strange boy living in her grandmother's house, and there's kind of mystery. It's pretty spooky. This is young adult, upper end of middle grade. I found book one pretty creepy, but then I've mentioned before that I actually find kids' scary stories more scary than adult horror, so I don't know. But this is a sequel to that, and it is a duology, so this is the conclusion to that story also. So I'm keen to get into this. Not very long, not even 300 pages in fact. And then finally we have my other pre-order, which was The Last Bear by Hannah Gold. And I mean, for starters, the dust jacket cover is beautiful, but take a look at this gorgeous naked hardcover. It is beautiful. I love it, and it's one of those really cute short ones. which I just love, and it's middle grade and it's an environmental story about the last bear on Bear Island, and the main character, April, is trying to save it, and it just sounds really, really cute. It's quite short, the font is quite large, it's illustrated as you can see, and I'm really looking forward to reading this. It sounds super, super cute. Plus, I'm pretty sure I saw Lauren James mention this as one of her anticipated releases in the kind of environmental fiction section, so I'm even more excited for that reason. And that's it. Those are the 11 books that I acquired in the month of February. Let me know if you have read any of these, or if you are planning to read any of these, or if you want me to prioritise any of these, and I will do so. And don't forget to check out Ponderful Books, which is my new book parcel service with my sister Natalie, linked in the description. And that's it for this one. Thank you so, so much for watching. If you like this video and want to see more like this from me, then do think about hitting that subscribe button, and I hope to see you here again soon. Thanks! Bye!